Yes, guys. Hello. Welcome back to the Spurs-related YouTube channel. I hope everyone's doing well. The Spurs-related guys are back. Tottenham continue their disastrous form, disastrous sort of time with the board and everything else associated. There is a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of good news today, however, but we will be catching you up with all the latest news. Myself and Jack Burford here at SpursRelated, going to catch you up with all the rumours, all the talk, all the top sources, and all the opinions. But firstly, before we get straight into the video, Jack, how you doing, mate?
You know what, James? I'm doing well on a personal note, but I am finding it hard watching Tottenham and seeing the negativity surrounded around the club at the minute. But that can all change with a couple of good results, and we've got a bit of good news to bring you today. So,
Absolutely. And I think what better way to start, Jack? Let's keep on a positive note and then let's sort of get into the middle bit, which is the obviously negatives and then maybe a positive at the end. I like to call that shit sandwich, Jack. I don't know about you. But anyway, the good news today that came out according to David Ornstein at The Athletic and a couple of other tier one sources, Harry Kane is apparently well, is in favour of signing a new contract at Tottenham. The exact wording obviously isn't from the horse's mouth, Harry Kane, but apparently he is happy to explore options to extend his contract further than when it expires, which at the moment is 2024. So, Jack, firstly, you've got to be happy with that. We're thinking Conte's going, obviously, from the news earlier in the week, and we thought Kane will go. We thought maybe, obviously, Son would go. What are your thoughts on that, mate? And do you think that's a big boost, which has been a very negative few weeks as a Tottenham fan?
to be honest, I would definitely say it's a massive boost. I was thinking about titling today's video: "Is Tottenham the key of Tottenham's future success? Is it around Harry Kane?" And the answer, overwhelming answer, is of course it is. Harry Kane is Mr. Tottenham. He's going to become our all-time goal scorer, and season after season, he's producing numbers. And not only that, recently his creativity is essential to the way we play football, and he's needed for many years. So seeing that news today really has brought a bit of positivity to me and lots of Spurs fans. And I really feel that he could keep us up there because right now he's the main man. And
Mm.
like we said, we're always looking on the positive outlook. He's kind of the reason we can attract in good players and potentially compete with the top clubs. Otherwise, we're just going to completely fall back because we're never going to be able to replace someone with the amount of money we spend or the ability of Harry Kane. Even if we had 200 million to spend on a striker, it doesn't mean we're going to get a player what Harry Kane does for this current Tottenham team. So for me, it's massive news. We've got to take all the positives we can currently.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a question I would have off the back of that, Jack, is do you think without Harry Kane this season, for example, what state would we be in? I mean, we're still fifth in the table somehow. He scored 16 Premier League goals in, I believe, 20-something games. I mean, without Harry Kane's goals and obviously contributions throughout the side where he drops back, he assists goals, he creates goals, creates assists. What do you make of like Tottenham at the moment? I mean, for me, we're a team that should be back down where Chelsea and Liverpool are 8th, 9th in the table without Harry Kane, right?
Spot on, spot on. Harry Kane has been a revelation this year. If Erling Haaland wasn't as good as he's been, this is who everyone would be talking about. But he's doing robotic stuff for Man City. I think he scored 21 goals now. Wait,
No
he's got a
more.
hat trick. So
24.
it might even be that is absurd,
Yeah.
okay, what he's doing. But he's doing it for a Man City side constantly attacking. Harry Kane is playing in arguably a negative side who like to hit on the counter attack. The amount of goals Harry Kane could be racking up for City could easily be the same numbers as Haaland. But what he's been doing for this Tottenham side currently is fantastic as well. And I think Harry Kane also admires how much opportunity Daniel Levy and the managers, how much trust they put in him, coming really off some failing loans we've seen for Leicester, for multiple clubs, Norwich and Spurs. All of a sudden, really believe that he could be the man, and he's just been a revelation. He's been the best, probably the best striker Spurs will ever see, and I think he appreciates that, and he wants to bring Tottenham to the heights, like potentially winning an FA Cup, hopefully one day winning a Premier League. And I think in his head, that's much more successful than doing it for a club like Man City or going to Germany and winning it with Bayern Munich. If he can bring Tottenham to that silverware that we haven't done since 2008, or winning a Premier League title, yes, it might be a 1 in 100 chance. But if he does do that, I think that's a lot more worth to him. And that's probably why he's looking at staying. And don't forget, Harry Kane's a family man. He's probably thinking about his family, kids, how much they've loved coming up the Spurs. Sounds stupid, but like where their kids are placed in schools, he's probably thinking, like, I'm happy with my lot, but I want to push on and hopefully I can bring Tottenham with me. And I feel like that's how he's looking at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned obviously it's worth more if he wins something here. Do you think, Jack? Another question, quick one for you is like, if he goes without through his whole career without winning a trophy, is that deemed you can't put him in the top, 5-10 players the Premier League's ever seen? Or do you think, like you said, kind of the loyalty, sort of the Gerrard side? Of course, Gerrard won multiple trophies but never won that Premier League. You've got players like Lampard and Terry who were one club men pretty much all their careers. It's very rare for a player to be a one club player. People think Alan Shearer's, Mr. Newcastle, but you forget he's obviously gone. He was at Blackburn before that, but he pretty much is, the definition of a loyal player. And loyalty is very few and far between these days, really. Do you think that says more, staying at a club like Tottenham and maybe winning 0 or potentially, hopefully, obviously 1 or 2 trophies, than, like you're saying, going to Bayern Munich, he could win 4 in one season. But for him, because he's people argue, but he is Tottenham through and through, do you think that is his ultimate goal, or do you think he could be swayed?
That's the thing, James. I think he's got his heart set on beating this Alan Shearer record, which would be incredible if he can do that. And I feel like, could he see himself going to another club in England? I think the key one right now with how they're progressing could be Manchester United. But maybe he believes, I don't want to relocate my family to Manchester. I want to do it with Tottenham. And I think if you look, Spurs were a much better side than Manchester United last year. And all of a sudden, they've got a manager who believes in them, every player, and plays progressive football. They have got financial backing and they have brought in fantastic players. Maybe he's looking on a very positive outlook, like all our Spurs fans, that maybe he can do the same with Tottenham. Maybe we're not that far off them. Lots of Spurs fans with the negativity around the club won't agree with that. But on the balance of things, if Tottenham win tonight against Fulham, that we were recording just before this game, we go 3 points behind Manchester United, and their fans are very happy with how they're doing right now. Spurs, with all our players back and maybe a few January additions, it sounds stupid to say, but they wouldn't be that far off. And I feel like Harry Kane believes, with his family, with his comfortability where he's at right now, potentially a team that plays to all his strengths, he might be in a better position to break the record playing for Tottenham. So maybe that's how he's thinking. I think moving to Bayern Munich or PSG, it's arguably not as ambitious because you're going to win trophies there if you go there. They're the best teams in the world. They've got the resources, and he's not going to be the main man. So
what about Man United? What about Man United? Because they're going through a transition at the moment. They've got a project going on. Yeah. For me, that's the most realistic one because he's going to want to stay and break that Premier League record. I mean, Man City, the boat sailed, as we know. Haaland, they're not going to get Harry Kane as well, I doubt. Chelsea and Arsenal, I really don't see him going there. I really hope not. I think the one is Man United if he was going anywhere, unless Newcastle offer mad money. But I think he's going to see that as a massively sideways move right now. So I think it's Man United, the one that worries me. But I guess we'll have to see. Jack, let's move on. We're keeping this video to a 20-minute video, guys. If you do like this video so far, smash the thumbs up. And if you do want to comment what your thoughts are on the Harry Kane saga, please do comment below. It really does help out the channel. But Jack, let's talk about some transfer news. Obviously, no activity for Tottenham at the moment in terms of incomings, which is obviously massively annoying. We know the stance on Fabio Paratici earlier in the week. He's been sanctioned to a 30-month ban from Italian football. Now, obviously, you're thinking Italian football, but apparently they're not quite sure whether that could extend to relations in the UK. So potentially that would affect his director of football role in Tottenham.
We're not at that stage, and I think Juventus got a 15-point deduction for their league from Fabio Paratici's activities. But right now, that's not carrying on to Tottenham, as far as I'm aware, as we are currently recording this video.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. Tottenham are not giving up on Pedro Porro, though, despite several talks with Sporting Lisbon, a 45 million euro release clause or
Yeah.
no go for him. Spurs will
Yeah.
insist again this week. Last week, Tottenham's proposal also included one player, but it was rejected, apparently. Interesting to see who that was. Maybe it was Sessegnon, or maybe it was Tanganga. Who knows? New round of talks soon. Thoughts on Pedro Porro? Firstly, over the weekend, I was keeping an eye on some of the foreign results, and Sporting Lisbon won 2-1. He got an assist and got the winning penalty in the 95th minute. So he's taken a penalty from right wing back. What are your thoughts on this guy? Personally, I haven't seen too much of him, but from what the Sporting fans have been saying and what some Tottenham fans that are maybe watching him more are saying, I expect big things. And I think 45 million euros, which is about 35-40 million pounds, that doesn't seem too extortionate when you think we paid 25 million for Spence and we're not using him.
Yeah, so my personal opinions on Pedro Porro is I can say I've watched him. He played against us in the Champions League, and I watched a couple games of him, mainly in the Champions League. I'm not going to lie and say I've watched all the games in Portugal because I'd be crazy to say that. But I have watched a lot of analysis on YouTube, and another guy who's very good, who we might be bringing on the channel, called the Euro Expert. He's done a fantastic video, and he thinks it'd be a fantastic signing. And I do believe Fabio Paratici has got most of these signings right. One of my big worries is he's 5'7", James. Is he up to the physicality of the Premier League? Another thing is Tottenham will be playing with two very attacking wingbacks, Perisic and Porro. Do we have the defenders currently to play with so many attacking forwards bombing up the pitch? Because then we don't have the defence on the wings. That'd be my slight worry. However, if you look at what he could bring, fantastic crosses into the box, fantastic control. The creativity that he brings on that right-hand side would be a fantastic leap up from the likes of Emerson and Doherty. So I do believe it's a risk worth taking. 40 million for an unexperienced player who hasn't played in any high-profile leagues is a high price tag. And I can sort of understand why we're not activated the release clause, because there are alternatives. But if Spurs really want to make that league up, it's a no-brainer, James. We've got to get this deal done somewhere or another, because how many times have we haggled over these fees? For me, let's bring him in, because if you watched him in the league, the way he drives at his opponents, how comfortable he is on the ball. I think a lot of Spanish people are saying he's going to be their first choice right back. Let's be honest, he could be a player that ends up going to Real Madrid if he progresses at the rate he's doing currently. So we've got to take him now.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's also what I'm seeing is he could be a very, very first choice wing back for Spain. The other thing is you mentioned there's alternatives, but I'm looking around and I'm thinking in terms of availability for that price with that quality that we know is 100% better than Emerson and Doherty, is there that many options for 40 million pounds?
Well, I'm sure in Levy's head he could think of a couple cheaper alternatives.
But mate, this is where we then would get into a bigger debate about Daniel Levy and saving money and everything else. But realistically, do we think that is a good value deal? I certainly do, and I think that this should be a deal.
Like we say, if we're being 100% honest, if we're talking from a footballing perspective, it's a no-brainer.
So then that brings me on to sort of the final talking point in terms of obviously Paratici and this 13-month ban. And if it goes through, not only that is going to be a problem with recruiting players and our scouting and everything else, but, the team behind him obviously then becomes a bit shambolic and, in murky waters. But also this big thing over Conte, and allegedly, according to DiMarzio earlier in the week, we're not going to be we're not going to be renewing Conte's contract. Things didn't go how they wanted, according to this report, and apparently he's not going to be offered a new deal. The deal will expire, or potentially, if results go even worse, now Conte could potentially get sacked or walk, right? That's what happened at the end of the Poch era. So, do we think we're going to back a manager that's not staying past 5 months' time?
This is the thing. I think
because I don't.
Yeah, we know what Antonio Conte's like. He's willing to throw his toys out the pram to get what he wants, and he normally gets what he wants. But we know time after time, Levy does not like spending money, especially if he thinks a manager can walk out of them. They're both high power men. They both value themselves as the best in the business and what they do, and they stick with it. And this is the problem. Conte is not willing to budge. He's saying he's going to Levy if he doesn't get backed. And Levy's saying, well, why am I going to back you if you're not guaranteeing us to stay here for another 3 years. So I
This
can
is a
see both
perfect
sides.
situation. This is a perfect situation for the board because they know that they're going to get in a new manager. They know that they've got the excuse of not backing a manager, and therefore they're not going to spend the money that they should spend when this squad needs desperately number one depth and number one class in several positions.
Yeah, 100%. Defenders letting us down time after time. How long have Dyer, Davies, and Sanchez been here? And these are the players we're relying on. Dyer and Davies are our main centre half and left centre back.
Dyer,
Some of our
Davies, Sanchez, Sessegnon, Lloris, Doherty, Emerson. There's 7.
They've been way too long. It's just they're just players that are not good enough. Especially like James. People would argue, but you got top 4 last year. You beat Arsenal, and now they're top of the league. That team played 1 game a week with no injuries for 16 weeks. And Antonio Conte drilled in a winning mentality. And we relied on the fantastic attacking creativity from Kulusevski, Sonny and Kane. They were in the form of their lives. They were unplayable. But that defence will continue to let you down time and time again if it is not addressed. Dyer, he might be good to play a backup centre-back. Davies, he might be good enough to be a backup centre-back. But if he hasn't got anyone competing with him week in, week out, to get that main squad, we should be looking at players of the quality of Skriniar, Bastoni. These are players that can compete with Dyer and Davies and really nail down that starting spot. Right now, it's a mid-table defence. You look at Crystal Palace, I would take Joachim Anderson and Mark Guehi over Eric Dyer any day of the week.
Us getting top 4 last year, Jack, was an absolute miracle. It was a miracle in the sense that Antonio Conte drilled in that winning mentality that you just mentioned, but also the other teams absolutely bottled it. Arsenal bottled it so hard, and we got lucky that we got in that top 4. Don't forget, we were losing games that we really shouldn't have been. The likes of Wolves at home, where we really should have been picking up 3 points or at least a point, we were losing, and we somehow got top 4. That would not happen this season. There is 4, 5, 6, 7 teams that could get top 4 this season, whereas last season it was just the 5 teams that could get top 4 because it was between Arsenal and Tottenham for that final 4th place. Man City were clear, Liverpool were clear, and Chelsea were clear. And we got lucky that we were in that situation where we could get top 4 by not playing amazing, and we went on that run at the end, and it was enough, right? But this season just shows how burnt out and finished some of these players are. And the joke of it is, the last subject of the video is about who we could potentially get in about Conte. And we're thinking about Poch, which I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly like mixed emotions about because it'd be great to have him back. But the joke of it is, he'd inherit half the team he left with.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. It's like
which
James,
is what he said needs changing.
100%. And if you remember, I think there was some funny when we signed Gareth Bale. We were saying we signed Lamella to replace Gareth Bale, and then we replaced Lamella with Gareth Bale. We're doing the same thing with Mauricio Pochettino potentially, and it's showing the direct root of the problem is the investment. Maybe not the investment, the amount of money spent, because Levy has spent 170 million, but he spent it in the wrong places. You're spending 25 million, 20 million on Jed Spence, who can't get a look in. We spent 60 million on Ndombele. We spent 40 million on Lo Celso. And these are players that no manager really wants to work with right now. So he has spent money, but you've got to have a clear plan, structure, identity. Like, look at the best players we bought in. Rodrigo, Bentancur and Kulusevski. I think we've bought them for a combined 60 million fee. Now their stock has risen massively. I'm not saying we've got to splash 80 million on your Gavalios that I would absolutely love. You've just got to identify a clear plan, players that are playing well, and stick with them and have a way of playing that works to your strengths. And then we can progress. But right now, James, we're going in a never-ending cycle and it's extremely frustrating. We've got to back Antonio Conte. It's the only way we can improve, because going back to Pochettino right now is just papering over more cracks, and we're going to have the same problems in 12 months' time.
100%. 100% agree. And the other thing, just to kind of summarize, is obviously we can do another video focusing on who the potential manager replacements are, should Antonio Conte obviously more than likely be going at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, Pochettino coming back, I mean, people forget that he went 2 windows without getting a player signed for him, and he'd taken our club further than anyone in history. Two
It's absurd.
windows. We were the first team to not sign players for back-to-back windows, and that is just an absolute travesty. How Pochettino got us to the Champions League final after that is ridiculous.
And James, don't forget this. We were linked with a player, James. I'm sure you can remember, and I think it was in the January transfer window, and we were haggling over 4 million. We offered Josh Onomah and 12 million to sign this guy, and at this time they were going through a period of getting new owners. We didn't spend the extra 3 million, and that player ended up getting sold for 100 million to Man City. Jack Grealish. Oh my word! The amount of times we've haggled over a couple million, and these players are world beaters. Bruno Fernandes wouldn't spend an extra 5 million. We ended up bringing in Giovanni Lo Celso and Ndombele. One of them is the best 10 in the Premier League, scoring goals for fun, part of a fantastic rebuild at Manchester United. And Ndombele on the bench for Napoli. Lo Celso in and out of the team for Villarreal. Look at the recruitment. Look at where we spent the money. Getting the decisions wrong time after time. And this is where we need to improve. But just quickly, on a maybe potentially half-glass full note, Antonio Conte, for me, I do see a world where he does stay for Spurs beyond the season. A lot of outlets have come out recently, straight after saying he's going to be gone. Apparently, it was mistranslated. Sky Sports, I think Lyle Thomas said, saying that Spurs are willing to offer Antonio a new contract and want to enter new negotiations. He wants to wait until near the end of the season to see how he gets on. If these Tottenham players show they want to play for him and they're good enough, and we get a couple of additions in January, maybe a Pedro Porro, maybe a Nicolo Zaniolo that we haven't spoken about yet, there is a world where we could get top four or a trophy. Look at it half glass full, because we have got the quality, James, and the defenders, as poor as they have been, we have seen, if it's really focused and we kind of attack more than we defend, which we haven't done this season, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but that's a very positive outlook.
It is very positive, and I would argue that you've been very, very light on the defenders there. I think they've been absolutely shambolic for most of the season, letting us down time and time again with individual mistakes that weren't there. They were papered over the cracks last season. I used it so many times in our podcast about Ben Davies and Eric Dyer papering over the cracks, and eventually their quality has shown this season. They haven't been good enough. I think us fans just saying, oh yeah, you know, they actually can be good. We can't have these players that can be good. We need to have players we can rely on week in, week out. And these players that we've mentioned in this video are not the ones to progress. But listen, Jack, we can go into more detail on that in another video about maybe some transfers in, transfers out over the window. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this short video idea of myself and Jack. Hope you've enjoyed. Please do smash a like, subscribe if you're new, comment what you think about this window, about the Conte situation, about the Harry Kane situation. And yeah, guys, thanks, Jack, for joining me. And we'll see everyone later. COYS Spurs!
Spurs!